Another question at microphone number 4 from Michael Sanderson.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Good day. Keep old people in the front of your mind. Okay?
I think I'm just about qualifying as one, hadn't I?
Yeah, well, 70 plus, you know, getting on a bit. Just going back to scams, and I've got a bit at the end of this. Scams are mentioned 23 times in the annual report. However, nowhere can I find the differentiation between digital scams and non-digital scams. Can the board advise shareholders and customers what percentage of scams are digital and what percentage are non-digital?
Yeah, look, the stat I have is about 45% of our scams came from internet apps, and of those apps, about the vast majority of any single area was from social media.
Right, 45%.
Yeah.
So you're saying that 55% are non-digital?
Well, they may have a digital role, but they're not taking place completely in a digital way. So, for example, someone can strike up a romance online, but it could be that they follow up with phone calls or whatever else.
Let's put it another way. If we switched off the internet, how many scams would be left?
Well, presumably it's a contributing factor, but yeah, Shane, you got a view on that?
Well, criminals find a way.
What, not the question.
And well, I understand that, but first of all, with due respect, it's not a reasonable question. It's a hypothetical question. It's not a reasonable question. We're not switching off the internet. So the reality is, I understand your question. Yeah. What you're trying to understand is, I understand you're trying to say, hey, it's all digital's fault for scams. The reality is, even prior to internet banking, people were being scammed and their money being stolen, and they were being conned out of money, even in a branch network.
The biggest difference, the biggest difference now is because of digitization. Money transfers can happen very quickly and very swiftly, whereas prior to digitization, people were doing longer term to make a transfer. So that's one of the reasons why, if we identify a high-risk destination or activity, we're actually adding a bit of friction to slow it down, so we give a chance for the customer to again verify and check that it's all legitimate.
I mean, I think it's worth saying, look, I mentioned the beginning of the bank, right, 1828. Since 1828, bad people have been trying to steal money, our customers' money. That is the nature of banking. We're in the security business. We have to secure people to make sure that their money is safe. Sadly, what's happening today is criminals have figured out that the best way to steal money is to con people into giving it to them. And so we have to be absolutely alert. That's why we put warnings. That's why we try to put a little bit of friction in the system, so when people are sending money to somebody that's new, that they've not sent money to before, or the amount's a little bit unusual, you'll get a warning. I mean, we have to follow our customers' instructions. If you tell us to send money to somewhere and it's legal, we can't have to do it. But we're trying to put warnings in place. We're also trying to use as many tools as we can. And one of the great things, again, around ANZ Plus, it's got a lot more security features in it that identify, hey, this doesn't look like a legitimate transaction, and something we should do more about. So it's a terrible scourge on the economy and the community. It's a terrible thing, but as Paul, the chairman, said, we have to work together with other banks, other institutions, the telcos, and as a whole business community to try to make this go away. And there's lots of really good work being done with the government. And the good news is, Australia is one of the few countries in the world, where the total losses are actually going down, and actually going down quite significantly.
With respect, there's one avenue that is relatively safe that you are not using as much, and they're branches.
People get scammed in branches.
I'm not saying they don't, but an insignificant percentage of people get scammed in branches as opposed to the digital format.
That's because an insignificant percentage of transactions are done in branches.
Okay,
so but anyway, you've made your point.
I go back to the 50s and the 60s. Yeah. I was able to buy a car, go shopping, buy a house. And I was not exposed to the stuff that I'm exposed to today. And I was able to eyeball an individual who knew me. What's so wrong about that period as opposed to this period?
Nothing.
Why
Nothing's
don't
wrong.
we?
We can debate the pros and cons and look.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
take your general point. We know, for example, people used to steal checks and take checks out of letterboxes and so on. So, you know, we can argue the pros and cons. Your general point, I think, Mr. Sanderson, is you want to make sure we're thinking about the important role that branches play for some customers.
I suppose what I'm saying, what is the improvement today as opposed to yesterday?
And I'm not sure that I can meaningfully use the AGM and all our shareholders' time debating the merits of today versus yesterday, but
Okay.
we take your point.
Okay, moving on. This is an odd one. It goes to disputes, and it relates, I suppose, primarily to the Banking Code of Practice 2004, although it does have connotation to later iterations of it, which have been largely watered down. If a matter is active in a court, clearly there is a dispute. Now, there are other disputes, but I'm just using that as an example. To clarify, section 53.1a and 35.1a and 36a of the Banking Code of Practice 2004 specifies that disputes must be free of charge. For further clarification, the Code of Compliance Monitoring Committee Bulletin number 8 states, from the date notified the complainant of the complaint, no legal costs may be charged to the customer relating to the resolution of the complaint or dispute. Now, this extends to the lawyers as well. The lawyers are also required to comply with 35 and 36 when the issue, when acting for the bank.
So can you help us get to then the question on this?
Yes. This results in amplified inequity, because what you have is one side with big resources and a lawyer's picnic.
What's your question?
Yeah,
Mr. Benson?
I'm reading my own writing, and believe me, it's bloody awful.
I want to make sure I give everyone a chance at the microphone, so maybe I can...
There's a number of people in the room that this bank has charged, lent them money in order to pay for their lawyers to take them to court. So you're carrying on a business that's in breach of the Banking Code of Practice, which is causing a lot of grief, a considerable amount of grief. For instance, Mr. Caulfield over here contemplated suicide. Paul Herman, he has to pose naked outside some of your branches to get attention. Rita's lost, you've sent her bankrupt. And you've done this by lending them money to pay for your lawyers in breach of the Code of Practice. In my case, the bank lent me $155,000 to pay for their lawyers while I represented myself in a court as a self-litigant because they took everything. There's Mr. Selwyn Krepp, a CBA customer. That bank, in still an ongoing dispute, has lent him $500,000 to pay for their lawyers to take him to court. Does the bank acknowledge that this is a breach of the code and that any legal costs that have been charged to your client should be reversed?
So let me just be clear, and I've said this throughout the meeting, that I'm not in a position, and it would be inappropriate here to comment on individual customers or
No
disputes.
examples.
But I would say as well, I'd reject the generalization that we're in breach. We have no interest in prolonging disputes. Indeed, our desire and our encouragement is always to try and get resolutions in an efficient and fair manner. I think if there are specific instances you want to raise where you believe there is a breach, let us know and we'll have a look at them on their merit.
It's a general comment. In other words, all I'm saying is if you lend a consumer money to pay for your lawyers whilst in breach, that isn't free of charge. Fact.
Thank you for making the point, and we've heard your point, and if you've got specific items you want to share with us, we're happy to look at it.